in the news because I'm late. News time. All right. It looks like we can't do the news screen. There we go. Fixed it. All right. News. It has been 2 weeks since I last did news because we missed a week of streaming. And this set is going to be a little bit chunkier because of it. So I've tried to cull quite a bit, but weirdly enough, more bigger news happened last week than this week. So this week has got a little bit of bits and pieces. However, the previous week had some interesting announcements that are worth covering. So we're going to jump into it, and if there's anything I missed amongst this, let me know. More than happy to spin around to it because this will probably be just a larger group set that we can jump through. All right, let's do it. Starting with the general game news for this week. Also, the date is today, the 30th of April. We're about to enter May. We're probably going to start seeing the ramp up towards the end of May for announcements, but things are starting to happen. We're now on that we're on that train again. We can feel the wheels starting to turn again. The lull of April is over, and we're probably going to start to see the spin up. First up, some sad news. So this happens. This is gaming, and this is essentially what happens to MMOs after existing for a long time. So the MMO Terra is shutting down. I literally have a box on my shelf of this game. I bought this back when it was a physical copy. I really did enjoy Terra. I didn't play Endgame for it, but it was a very fun game while it lasted. I think that the issue is, as an MMO with action mechanics, a bit rough on Australian ping, but it survived a hell of a lot longer than I was expecting. And mostly the Korean one wasn't going to shut down, but the rest of the regions will be shutting down, unfortunately. So I mean, it kind of happens. These games last for a very, very long time. It first launched in Korea in 2011. I think came to the West a few years later, or a year or two later, but it did relatively well, and it was a fun game. So good work to the team. A little sad that it's finally shutting down, but hopefully they move on to some bigger things. Hey Lava, welcome on in. Devil May Cry 5 sales exceed 5 million. So that's pretty cool. I mean, I love Devil May Cry, so I'm glad to see it at least reached 5 million. Capcom probably still not very impressed by these amounts, but I think this game came out pretty well. I still have issues with some of the design philosophies around it, but it means that, to me, the heart of DMC is still alive, and perhaps we may see a DMC 6 at some point with how the game leaves off at the end. So good to see that it sold at least that amount, and it hopefully might make a nudge to modern Capcom sort of higher ups that there is some money behind this game if they want to. I don't know how much they would have put into dev costs, but at least they would have likely have gotten profits from this, so we'll see. Actually, I might move this article because I think we want to put this with another article, so I'll move that one for now. Speaking about downloads and sales, YuGiOh Master Duel has just hit 30 million downloads, which means if you're playing, you can go get some free gems. Not a lot, just 1,000. But yeah, this game just keeps getting downloads. I do want to state I am curious how much of this is getting inflated in terms of numbers, because the way to play this game, if you want to play with lots of different decks, is making Smurfs. Just keep making different accounts to play different decks, because you can just make a lot of free currency very quickly, and then it just dries up. There's the drip feed of it isn't as effective as it is as the burst at the start. So if you're wanting to play lots of different decks, very likely that's what you're doing. But It's cool to see people are still excited. I want to have a big rant and rave about how terrible the ban list. Oh, maybe I'll do it here because I don't have an article. There was a new ban list that came out. This is something that people have been waiting for. There is a big issue right now in terms of the meta. How like a lot of I don't think the services essentially are basically doing, and I think that is a bit disappointing that Konami has learned a lot of bad things from Duel Links, and they're just going to get away with it. So it's a little disappointing to see, but at least people are still interested, and there is a thriving community. So we'll see what happens as time goes on, but it is curious to see where they will take this game still, because it is kind of in a strange like limbo state. I feel like it's not going to be pushing up numbers, and it's not going to be pushing down numbers too fast. So it will probably just bleed out a bit until they make some major decisions essentially. And I don't think that ban list will fix that problem. So if you didn't see it, they banned basically nothing. They basically didn't change anything, despite there being very, very toxic dichotomy between strength levels of decks. If you want to know more about that, you can probably see in our Discord channel, the YuGiOh channel specifically, us discussing that. Final Fantasy 16 development in its final stretch. This is some pretty insane news. So we knew this game was in development for some time, but not enough that I thought we would hear anything like this anytime soon. Now, this game has been in development throughout COVID, so that may cause some problems eventually that we'll see. But it's kind of crazy because we were really hoping that they would take their time with this one, but they wouldn't necessarily be just spinning wheels like they were with, say, Final Fantasy 15, which that game was a bit of a clusterfuck. If you've not played 15, if you don't know the development of 15, it is pretty atrocious. I think that game came out in a state that was not acceptable for a full price game. If you've played like Metal Gear Solid 5, very similar sort of thing happened there. It's a bit of a disappointment with that game. I really hoped that the people that were working on this one, because I have more confidence in them, such as the man Yoshi P, they will have taken time with this, and they will only push it forward if they are confident. But we'll talk about the specifics about Square later today. We do have an article to talk about, bit of a controversy that happened, so we'll see. But generally, Final Fantasy gets a lot of like fair dues, and it is the main Square game at the end of the day. Also, I just noticed, Thomas, you said you were feeling a little tired. Oh. Hopefully, I can give you a bit of a news buzz. This one's a bit of a fun one. I didn't know where to put this. I kind of have been thinking about maybe we make a section that's like sort of fun news. Earth Defense Force 6 release date has been announced, but who cares? Hololive Decoys revealed. So if you didn't see, there was Mio, who I think she's got one of the best designs out there for VTubers, is a very big fan of Earth Defense Force, and she has been put into the game as one of the decoys, which is like a big sort of balloon thing that moves around and stuff like that. Now, I really like Earth Defense Force. I think they're the type of game you only play once in a blue moon. I don't know if this game will be as different as some of the previous entries. Usually they're very iterative and not too different. But if you are interested, Earth Defense Force 6 will release on August 25th this year, which will likely see a few months after that, so late in the year, if not early next year, for a global release. But these games, if you've played these games, it's more of that game, I would imagine. But yeah, also, I didn't notice this. So also Fubuki and Ayumi, also Ayumi, are also in it as well. Man, you can see it looks crunchy. These games look crunchy, I'm not gonna lie. But they're very fun. Is that my webcam? EDF? Hey Klaus. EDF. EDF. I absolutely love EDF. I would sing the EDF song, but I need to keep moving. Hey doing, Klaus? Welcome on in. I'm glad I'm not the only one that gets excited by EDF news. I just noticed some of the new chat when I typed lol. I got a little emoji on the top of the word. Oh, really? Hang on. What? Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's cool. I wonder when they added that. I've never seen that before. That's a good addition. I'm glad that works on my end, too. Hope you're doing well, class. Any announcements? So, surprisingly, there were quite a few announcements. I kind of was surprised that the week I missed, there were some decent news pieces to talk about. So, let's jump into them. No More Heroes 3 is getting a PS4, PS5, Xbox, and PC port. I may end up getting this on PC because I haven't purchased this on the Switch because it's quite expensive still. I really wanted to play it, but I think that Grasshopper may have put the price like a little bit higher than I was sort of anticipating, and it hasn't come down quite yet. But I would say that it's probably worth maybe waiting and picking it up on the PS4 or one of these other platforms, because people have noted that it's still very hampered essentially by the Switch, just in terms of visuals and sometimes frame rate drops. I think you get used to the art style, and it was one of those things with the Wii, like it was like, yeah, it is what it is. But I think that perhaps more clear, less choppy sort of visuals might be worth waiting for if you haven't picked it up already. So this is actually a pretty decent announcement. It's the weekend at least. I mean, gotta relax somehow. At some time. That's a pretty good, I actually really like that. Moe. El Shaddai Switch port confirmed and is coming in late April. So this was a rumor for a while there. Now this is a game I never played. I've had quite a few people contact me and say that I should play this game. This is a niche game that is an action RPG that would be down my like avenue of play. I hadn't really heard about it before, but this is pretty cool. So obviously this is a cult classic enough for this to have happened, and that's pretty exciting. I think hopefully this is coming to the West, but I not really sure. Essentially, let's see if this video has any trailer footage. It just probably has some screenshots. That's it. But yeah, it's pretty cool that I think a lot of these niche cult classics are giving a second chance, and just because people are just more willing to play retro games these days, and ports just being way more accessible. Wasn't this a PS3 game? I think so, Klaus. I'm not really sure myself. I think it's a PS3 game, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like there'll be people that are excited for this, but I'm certainly excited myself. So we'll see how that goes. Xenoblade Chronicles. Oh my god, this is a news brief. So hang on, I didn't grab the actual article. Let's see if I can find a proper article. So there's no article. We'll grab the Twitter post instead. So this was kind of surprising news. If you did not see, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is now arriving earlier than expected. It actually had a push forward to the 29th of July. It was originally, I think, slated for either September or August. So this was kind of surprising because this never happens. Games are usually pushed backwards, not forwards. And it being a big Nintendo mainline game, very surprising. And they actually showed off more footage. Some of the more combat systems. It definitely looks like Xenoblade. I haven't played Xenoblade 2, so I probably won't be playing this just yet. But considering how excited people were for this, I can imagine this is going to be a very big sale. But one thing is that I wonder whether or not it's because of COVID they actually slated a delayed time frame that they were kind of not expecting to reach, and that just looks like an EVA unit. And I think because of the fact they were more confident, they pushed it forward. And as I've talked about before, the development team for the Xenoblade games might be one of Nintendo's best developing teams. The shit they're pulling out of the engine is absurd. The fact they're doing this all on the Switch, the visuals are stellar, and the game itself seems to be extremely high quality. So I think they've only doing this if they have some extreme confidence. So it's pretty cool to see. It might also be marketing where they're trying to push it forward because of the fact that they're trying to meet markers before something. Because there are rumors some big things are going to be happening later in the year by Nintendo, but Monolith is talented. Monolith they are just kings in the industry. Phantasy Star vibes? Very much so. I mean, I think that's the thing. I think it was very much like they took off where Phantasy Star or like Oceans sort of stopped doing, and they moved into the MMO space. Looks like they kept the battle system from 2. Yeah, it seems like it. It seems like it's more diverse in terms of team structure and play style, though. So,
finding a path that lets us all live. I will make that.
Fun fact: people were upset the Xenoblade 3 release date was released before Splatoon 3, which trailer came last year. It's so weird. People are a bit funny about that stuff. I feel like Xenoblade and the Splatoon communities aren't necessarily one for one. So I think that's not necessarily a terrible thing, but they're also different development teams. So hopefully people don't think that the development of one is causing problems with another. But yeah, pretty cool. And that game does look very, very good, particularly for a Switch game. So, all right, did I? Yes, I put these two together. All right. Sonic Origins release date and platforms revealed. So I'm not too excited for this, but it's worth talking about. So there's going to be a new collection. We've had so many collections for Sonic games, original Sonic games, over and over and over. This is the latest one called Sonic Origins. It, however, does include Sonic CD, but it has a new thing, which is Sonic CD and Knuckles, which was never a thing on the original Genesis. So, there's also apparently the music that was pulled out due to lore stuff in relation to the sort of Michael Jackson sort of organization. They kind of pulled some music back. There was legal stuff. That music is supposedly getting put back into the games, which is pretty cool to see. But at the end of the day, it's just another collection of Sonic games of a lot of ones that people have probably played before. So nothing too crazy. It's coming out on June 23rd if you have not got access to any collections prior to this. So worth picking up if you haven't got a collection already. However, for those that do have a collection, the existing collection on Steam, PS3, and Xbox will disappear. So I have the Steam collection. It's whatever that emulated Genesis console is on the Steam. I've had access to all those Sonic games for a very long time, and it seems like that's going away. So if you don't want to pick up the Origins collections for whatever reason, you can pick up these ones over on Steam already, and it will be a short time thing for that because they'll basically disappear. Very likely the price will get increased with Origin, but I don't know what the balance is by purchasing each of these individually on those emulation services versus the one whole package, which is more expensive. But just a thing to be aware of. There is some minor controversies about that, but I won't talk about them just yet. Oh man, this one kind of was surprising. So if you guys did not see my big rant and rave about the Digimon stuff, I am very excited for Survive to finally come out. Except it happened during our Elden Ring time period. We basically watched a live presentation of them saying, do not expect Digimon Survive anytime soon because of the fact that we had to change developers and change a lot of process stuff. And that was a very sad piece of news because we were expecting, with all the trademark listings and everything like that, that the game was probably going to be released in January this year, possibly even December. It didn't happen, and now it's they basically told us don't worry about it. Then they unfortunately leaked a few things, including the release date for Digimon Survive, which pushed forward very likely this news, and they didn't do a proper presentation due to it, which is Digimon Survive will be released on July 28th, 2022. And that's very soon. That's a lot sooner than I think a lot of people were expecting after what they were talking about. So we've got basically 3 months to go for that. And I'm very looking forward to this game, and it is going to be something that's going to be liberating, I think, for the teams to finally move off from working on this project that hopefully comes out in a state that isn't just a bit of a shit show. So fingers crossed this is a decent game. And yeah, I'm just excited for this game. I just like Digimon, guys. Speaking of which, they also announced on the tail of that news that in a pre-order reward you can get Guilmon, which, if you guys don't know, he's probably my favorite looking starter rookie of Digimon. I don't really like his evolution so much, but I do really like his standard design. I think it's quite nice. And Guilmon just comes as a pre-order. So it looks like they're going to start ramping up their news probably over the next few months or so as the game starts to release. Perhaps they will announce a few more details. They've already announced a few things, but very minor. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. Klonoa! So, Klonoa Fantasy Reverie has actually finally got an announced date. So it looks like we're going to be receiving it on the Switch on July 8th. And it sounds like they're probably actually not going to have as an exclusive release on just the Switch. Everything is going to be coming out on the same day. So if you were wanting to play the Klonoa games or go revisit them, it looks like you don't have to wait too much longer on all the platforms. I probably will end up playing this at some point. I don't know if I'll pick up necessarily the collection, but I never played Klonoa. I know that a lot of people have told me that this is probably a game I would really enjoy, or games. So we will probably keep that on the back burner and keep that in mind, because they genuinely look quite fun. They're not too long of games from my understanding, but it's cool to see just another mascot character sort of be resurrected for us to see, get some lifeblood put back into them. This one's for Al. New Tales of the Borderlands to be announced this summer. I normally don't do announcements for announcements, but this kind of came out of nowhere, because I thought Tales of the Borderlands was pretty much dead. Between not working with the Tales team, not Tales team, what are they called? I've forgotten the name of the company that basically just resurrected themselves to do Wolf Among Us. Basically, that company no longer was doing games anymore. They've shut down all that sort of stuff. They've been sort of come back together, and now it seems like Borderlands is sort of having a new revitalization through Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Telltale, thank you, Red Rover. So with Telltale, I don't know if Telltale is going to be necessarily involved with this, but there is a high chance that they will be if that new company is sort of that company is being resurrected, and if they really want Borderlands to essentially be big again. And Tiny Tina's did very well, so we'll see. This might actually do decently well, and we just have to hold out until that announcement properly. Guilty Gear Strive Another Story DLC is launched on April 23rd. This was on my list of things to play. I was planning to play this if we finish Sonic fast enough. Not sure if we're going to have time to do so, but I'm very much looking forward to this. I didn't play the story on stream, so it's going to be a bit confusing probably for people, but it's very, very big stuff is very likely to happen, because it'll be the new chapter, because we closed off the major chapter in the end of Strive, And if you've played Guilty Gear, you know who this girl is, or you probably likely know who she is. And we'll see how this story progresses. And I'm kind of excited because I actually really do enjoy the Guilty Gear story. So, and it looks like the main key players in this one will probably be Baiken, Ram, which it looks like we're going to be in a snow area. Now we'll kind of perhaps we'll see what our boy here has been up to, because he kind of went off into the desert with one of the Institute members, and that could be a pretty big deal. And it looks like May and the Flying Jellyfishes are probably going to be somewhat involved. So looks like it'll be pretty fun. I'm excited for it, and maybe we might do it on stream. PlayStation Plus new live service dates has been announced. So if you didn't know, PlayStation Plus is getting changed over. The service is being changed and upgraded in quotation marks. We'll see. And they've actually announced the dates for it. It's a lot sooner than what we thought. So fingers crossed they actually release the announcement of listed games that will be associated to all the ones if you pay a little bit extra. So those will be coming to basically in June is what we're looking at. So Asia, including Japan, excluding Japan on May 23rd. Very strange that it's excluding Japan, and then Japan gets on June 1st, and the rest of the world sort of with it throughout June. So it doesn't state Australia. I don't know if we're concluded in the May 23rd. Very likely we're probably included in the Americas. But yeah, I think we'll hopefully have an announcement stream from PlayStation, or at least an article that will state additional details, because there's still a lot we don't know about it. And I hope the list of games is the major thing they want to talk about. So, and the last announcement for today, Diablo Immortal launches June 2nd for mobile platforms plus PC. Sorry. Open beta. So this game has been in development for a very, 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 very long time. I have no idea why it's taken so long. And it is not Diablo 4. I want to re-establish this isn't Diablo 4. So people don't get too excited about this. This is the mobile game that is meant to be essentially a reskin of an old Chinese ripoff of Diablo, from my understanding. But they mostly took over it. So who knows whether or not this will be any good. But I think mobile Diablo makes sense now with how phones are, how good tablets are. You could easily play this, and it probably feel all right. I think it's not a bad way because of how movement works in these sorts of games. So I don't know if it will be any good. I really just am waiting for Blizzard to get into gear and actually announce properly their games, including Diablo 4. Perhaps there is a lot of internal stuff that needs to happen. Chat, did we talk? Surely I talked about WoW, didn't I? Did I miss the WoW news? Did I talk about the WoW news over 2 weeks ago? Because surely I did. I must have. I feel like I've somehow missed it. Anyway, if you didn't see, the WoW new expansion news came out, and I wanted to have a big old rant rave about that. Perhaps we might need to do that. Did I do that? Someone who remembers 2 weeks ago's news. I can't remember myself off the top of the head, but I would like to talk about that at some point, if not. But maybe when we get more news, we can watch the trailer and I can have a rant. But yeah. Dang, that WoW news kind of big. Delays for days. So we're moving to delays now. Nintendo and Illumination delay the Mario movie. This was not something I was expecting, in a sense, but at the same time I was. And I think the weird part about it was that Miyamoto himself announced it for some reason. I have no idea why they got Miyamoto apparently to be the one to be involved in the PR associated to this. I know he is the Mario creator, but bit of a strange one. But basically they've stated please give us more time to make it a fun movie. It sounds like that if the leaks from viewer testing are true, it didn't land in the way people wanted. And just be careful if you're on the internet and you're looking into this movie at all. There is supposedly a leaked breakdown of the script from people who've watched the view tests. So just be aware, there may be spoilers for this movie out there. I read them, and they do sound like they might be legitimate. So, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see if this movie ends up being any good. I'm not really expecting much in a sense, but yeah, maybe they're changing some voice actors. I don't think so. From what I could tell, Red Rover, is supposedly the script might need to be adjusted at the end. Sounds like they weren't quite happy with how people responded to it for whatever reason. So if true, then that might be what's happening. We'll see. But yeah. Upcoming events. So there's a few events, or 2 events. The main one I want to talk about is the Sunbreak digital event, which is set for May 10th. So that will be, it will happen, unfortunately. I hate when this happens. This will happen on the Tuesday of not this week coming, the week after for me, which means I won't be able to cover it live on stream. But I'm very much looking forward to this. Usually these events are the events to watch for Monster Hunter news. We will probably get a decent amount revealed here, and probably a new monster. So I would say that we're going to see a ramp up from this point onward in terms of news by the Capcom team, and I'm very much looking forward to this. I just don't think mostly a comedy actor like Jack Black is suitable for Bowser. I think he is, because Bowser is a comedic character. Like, I think most of his iterations, he's got a bit of silliness to him. I mean, Mario is very silly, but I don't know if Jack Black's voice is what I think of when I think of Bowser, so it'll be curious to hear what kind of voice he comes up with, considering we've already had voiced Bowser in multiple games now, and we kind of, I think of what tone of voice it is. But yeah, there's a lot of voices in that I'm curious how they're going to approach it as voice directing, because I really don't want them to just sound like them. If they just sound like the actors, I will be very upset. And I hope that they're aware that a lot of people will feel the same. Xbox and Bethesda Showcase. So this is our first one for the year. As I said, we will start to ramp up as we approach where E3 should have been. And essentially we have, I guess, the individual ones that are going to be popping up. So looks like Xbox and Bethesda is going to be first to the punch in terms of announcing themselves. I don't know if the Summer of Games has had any sort of date recognition just yet. Very likely it will happen still, but it looks like we're looking at June 20. Have they even stated the June? There we go. June 12th, 2022. So this will probably be a relatively big one, and I don't know. I'm looking forward to this. I don't know if Bethesda's really going to show off anything I will be too excited for. But I would say that probably Xbox will have a few things, especially if they're still leaning into their Japanese IPs, which they've been trying to still get that support going. So there could be some fun things in there. First normal Jack Black Bowser voice. It'll be pretty weird. Like, I don't even really like his voice in Kung Fu Panda. I've only seen parts of Kung Fu Panda 1, and I don't think Jack Black's voice there was very suitable. He sounds like he's gone for a younger voice, but it doesn't give off a sort of a presence that I think is effective in that movie. But who knows, maybe if he does like a gruff voice. He is at the end of the day partially a rock metal singer for his band, so he might be able to do gruff voice for Bowser. So all right, out of the major news quadrant into the weird news. Anime. Not that weird, actually. This one is actually exciting. I'm looking forward to this one. So if you've not been watching all the Pokemon shorts that have been coming up on YouTube, some of them are gorgeous. They've gotten very, very high class anime studios and anime directors to do little featurettes, and they are gorgeous. They're so good. Now it looks like they're trying to push for a project that is a bit more detailed and like involved, using Pokemon Legends Arceus as an anime series. And I just from this sort of this promo art alone, if this is the tone they're going for, I think I will genuinely really enjoy this. I think the idea that Pokemon doesn't need to necessarily be like the silly daytime kids anime that it is, and have a little bit more like nuance and like warmth to it, or thought-provoking, I think it works for Pokemon still. I think that they've fleshed out the universe enough that they can get away with this stuff. So fingers crossed this is good. Yeah, I'm genuinely looking forward to this. I don't think they've got an announcement day. Oh, they do. So the first one apparently will release on May 18th in 2022. Is it releasing on YouTube? It's a web series watch online. So I don't know if this means it'll be on the Pokemon website or if it will appear on YouTube, but fingers crossed it appears on YouTube, because otherwise I will forget to watch it. Common controversies. Oh my gosh, I actually ended up having quite a few controversies over this time period. Quite a lot of business ones. Seems like we're getting a lot of stuff at the moment. Like I think, like I said, a lot more articles are being written and read about all the various things that happen at big businesses these days because of recent events. Starting off with Nintendo, which Nintendo is not. This isn't the first time for Nintendo. I'll put it this way: Nintendo contractors report harsh working environments. Maintained cyclical contract works for low wages, expecting overtime, and a lack of benefits. So this is from the America's perspective, not so much the Japan, but we definitely know Japan has a similar thing just because of how very stringent Nintendo is. Nintendo is probably the most over the shoulder of all of the companies, the major companies. And it sounds like the American branch is not doing a great job of managing their supporting studios. And I'm not talking. This is not then. So this isn't direct AAA. This is contract workers and support studios and things like that. And it sounds like the pay rates are quite low, and it's just really frustrating to see this just ongoing. And just because they are a big brand does not mean that they should be immune to being chastised for these sorts of things. But yep. Again, this isn't the first time we've seen this. Let's hope that we can see some changes, as it looks like the games industry in America is perhaps moving towards more unionization. So, Epic Games faces labor complaint over alleged refusing to hire a union supporter. So, it's just talking about unions. So now we've got more and more of this stuff happening. It really is starting to reveal some stuff. And it's like, I know a lot of people don't pay attention to the stuff in the industry, but it is really just taking note that a lot of the AAA companies are doing this shit, and it's not okay. And really hope that it's by getting some voices out there and these sort of articles written, that it gets noticed and people actually start paying attention to which companies are actually doing the wrong thing, and maybe rethink whether or not they want to provide as much support or if any support to some of these companies financially. So, but yeah, I won't go breaking down these nitty gritties for these. If you do want to, these articles are out there as always to read yourselves. So this is probably the big one. This is probably the big one of this week. I've seen so many people talking about this one. This one is weird. I have a few different ways I need to take to talk about this one. There is a degree of non-surprise on both sides for this. So, Yuji Naka, the ex-Sega Sonic director, went over to Square Enix as a contractor to work for them as a developer for a new project, which ended up becoming Balan Wonderland. Balan Wonderworld, sorry. And we all know how that game went down. That game was terrible. Like, that game had immense design problems. People were very unhappy by that game. It sounds like Square were unhappy by that game. They tried to shovel it away. Seems like Square was well aware of the situation before it released. It seems like they followed through with the release of it. But Yuji Naka sued them after the release of that game and after he was fired from them. Seems like his firing actually happened earlier than when we thought. It actually happened 6 months before the game was actually finished and released. He pushed for the game not to be released until it was fixed and properly working. Remember, Square did want to, they actually gave him a smaller amount of funding than he was probably expecting. They also had a strict time frame on him to really test him to make sure that he could put out a quality product, and it did not happen. So Square, it sounds like, removed him off the project, and they tried to finish it up and put it out there, and it didn't do well. Yuji Naka, not happy though he was fired, sounds like he sued them, and basically is now announced post of all of the court case proceedings, has now just gone out with a lot of statements about Square, stating that they basically were not supporting the project properly. They didn't care if it got released in a bad state. They weren't. The thing is, there's a lot of hearsay here, and it's Square not really verbally getting to defend themselves because they're a company and he's an individual. So who knows what we'll hear post all of this. But this, Yuji Naka has had some stuff related to this before. I'm not on necessarily Yuji Naka's side. I'm not necessarily on Square's side here. This is a situation in which that both parties were probably in the wrong. I would imagine that Square put a very stringent restriction on how this game was to be developed, but I think that Yuji Naka likely failed to meet their quality that they were looking for. And we know that game had some real problems. The fact that its main core focus was around a loop where the entire game was based around essentially one button. And unlike Nights into Dreams, where the system was designed about more automation, this seems like this game just did not match that style of design, and it failed. And now it looks like they're throwing punches at each other, but it's definitely one of those things where they're saying that he's labeling Square as they do not care. And he's a notable name in the industry, and you don't really see this very often from Japanese devs. So it's curious what's going on here. I don't know if anything will have any fallout beyond this, but yeah, it's funny just to see people take either sides in this case, because very likely probably both were at fault. So just too bad that game, visually I was very excited for, just ended up being just a bit of a disaster piece, unfortunately. Activision and Blizzard receives a new NLRB complaint. Oh boy. So, National Labor Relations Board, they've got a new complaint against Activision Blizzard. It's not ending. Like I said, this opens up doors for people to do this stuff. And that's not a bad thing. It's just disappointing to see, because it seems like we're getting a lot of more and like essentially announcements of just bad wheelings and dealings that happen within the industry. Excuse me. Within the last 6 months, the above named employer and manager has threatened employees that they should not discuss concerning wage hours and working conditions on Slack. So supposedly, they've had direct threats to individuals over their work media, basically telling them not to do things, being very crass, and essentially those logs have been pulled out and then being given to the labor boards, and they're not happy about it. So essentially, I'm not sure, this article doesn't really state which part of Activision Blizzard, but I imagine it probably is on the Activision side. It sounds like there is quite a lot of stuff there. But we'll talk about that momentarily because it is time to jump into big business. I may as well jump into this one first. So, big business time. Follow on, Controversies always generally tied to big business, but Activision Blizzard sales engagement tumble. So, Activision Blizzard are not doing well, specifically on the Activision and King side. Blizzard, of course, failing on the side of their MMO and everything like that, but Activision is not doing well on their Call of Duty side and their other projects, and neither is King with all their mobile titles. Mobile is starting to die out in various different areas. The big wigs of various mobile ones, I don't know really what happens over there. I, again, have talked about it before where mobile gaming is kind of a separate kettle of fish. I'm not very interested in it. I don't think there's a lot in it that essentially is relevant to the rest of the games industry very often. The bleed over will probably eventually happen with things like, say, Genshin Impact and things like that, or even that Diablo game, where mainline titles are starting to see like on multiple platforms, including phones. But as it stands, most mobile titles make most money on very gacha-like small puzzler sort of things that really don't have impact on the industry. So we have essentially a shit ton of money lost here. And again, it makes sense for Microsoft to have purchased all of this because they gain control of all of this and they can make decisions, some really hard decisions on whether or not they want to cut back on certain things or certain projects. So who knows? I don't know if Microsoft will have the correct management to be able to deal with these problems, but there is a lot of change happening here. Oh, it does actually state Blizzard's revenues were down as well in the first quarter. 43%. Gosh dang. Man, that's pretty much like 45% across the board. That's pretty insane. But yep. Not too surprised in some ways. But we'll probably see more things come up with them. I actually do have another Blizzard Activision one. We might actually just jump into this as well. Activision Blizzard stockholders, however, approve the Microsoft acquisition deal. Why wouldn't they? At this point, they need a bailout. They need to make sure that they don't keep bleeding money. So it seems like the stockholders have accepted the deal, and it looks like it is completely going to happen. There's no way it's not going to happen, I don't think, now with this particular deal. So yeah. Saw over 98% of shares accepted in the purchase. That's only 2% that didn't. Yeah. I don't even know how we refer to them in the future. Are they going to separate Activision and Blizzard? Are we going to have this situation where it's like Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard? Are we going to have like Microsoft have it just be like you just refer to them as Microsoft games? Are they going to be referred to as Activision games or Blizzard games? Like, I don't know. Probably will be. It's very rare for them to like. I mean, we still refer to Rare as Rare, but it's just going to be. So we're on a weird timeline in a weird sense for that. Speaking about acquisitions, Gearbox is to acquire Tiny Tina co-developer Lost Boys Interactive. So I heard this is a very good game. I've had multiple people tell me I should play it and possibly even play it on stream. It might be a fun thing to play with you guys, actually. I haven't really been feeling shooters for quite some time. I also I didn't really feel the last few Borderlands games, so I'm not super duper like ready to dive down this rabbit hole, but it seems like people were very happy with this game. So this is a very smart pickup by Gearbox, considering they were really quite struggling, it sounds like, with, well, we've seen the last few games that they've tried to put out and they didn't really land very well. So between this and maybe Tales of Borderlands, we might see Gearbox sort of change a corner again and really revitalize themselves, I guess. But yeah, congrats to Lost Boys. If they were wanting to be acquired, they did it. They made their way in. PlayStation sets up a preservation team and hires a new senior build engineer. So, okay, this is probably not that crazy of a news piece. I'm excited by it. You guys have heard me talk about, I think, game preservation in a digital format that is accessible and promoted by actual big companies should be a thing that would, like, I would love that to be across the board for so many different things. Just preservation of games, I think, is so important, as well as accessibility. And I think the fact that there's digital formats where it's like, my hope is that it would be something essentially that they would get to a point that they can just, like, we will just have access to things. But got to start somewhere, and I think that hearing PlayStation doing this is exciting because they still have not figured out how to essentially bring over a lot of, like, they need to figure out how to bring over PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 architecture cleanly over to the PS5. So fingers crossed that that's what this is going to start doing, and we will see PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4 all somehow accessible on later gen consoles. Really, really hope so, especially with this new PlayStation Plus service. So I would love to have access to Xenogears and Xenosaga. Dude, if they essentially, I know with licensing and everything like that, it can be very tough, but please, if we can get to a point where essentially we have a Netflix-like service for all old stuff, that would be incredible. It would be so good. I know that you would have problems where emulations and things like that, and it opens up a rabbit hole of, like, each of these things may not be working fully functionally, but I think you need to start somewhere and you need to build up. It's almost like the weird Pokemon thing, where the more Pokemon get added to the Pokemon games, the harder it is to maintain and update and add and do all this stuff as time goes on. I get that. But I think that if you fix it once and you get the architecture working once, it is easier to fix those in the future. But we'll see. Game Workers Unite become the first Australian games industry union. It finally happened. So if you didn't know, Games Workers Unite has been around for a little while now from memory, but they are essentially the first established Australian games union. And that's very exciting. I've talked about how important it is for games unions to exist. And in Australia, it's been a tricky thing because pretty much since the crash that happened, like, I want to say almost 10 years ago, we haven't really recovered over here at all very well. But of all places to have effective unionization, I would say that here is a good place to have it happen. And especially with the fact that we have so many indie companies that exist that do contract work for overseas, that this could be a really good thing. And I'm very excited by this. So congrats to everyone that's involved in this. And I hope to see that there's a lot more protection given to developers in Australia. So exciting stuff. I think this is very cool. And we'll finish off with a weird rumor. Twitch times. It's not very often I do Twitch these days, but Twitch reportedly considering to cut the top streamers' pay. So I was tempted to put this in controversies, but it's not been announced yet. But if you saw my talk about it on Twitter, I think that this is a pretty insane thing for them to be doing. So if true, we might see that essentially the subscription revenue amount dropped from 70% to 50%, which means that they're only getting 50% cut. That's a 20% drop. And they're trying to encourage people to use more advertising on their streams. As well as one big other thing. They will lose exclusivity. So essentially they're stating that streamers can go stream on other platforms, which is a weird thing. So we've got a situation where they're trying to almost push away their biggest names onto other platforms. I don't understand this. I don't really quite understand. It still will have the limitation where you can't stream on two platforms at the same time, but it sounds like you will be able to stream if you want to do one day on YouTube, one day on Twitch, one day on Twitter, who knows. You can do so. which I think that should be something just anyway, in a sense. At least for lower ends. I feel like if you're not essentially a higher up partner, that you should be allowed to do that. If you're signing a contract that gives you essentially a fixed rate, then essentially you should be exclusive in a sense. I think that makes sense. But I think what's crazy about this, it really feels like they're trying to push away bigger streamers. Also discourage people from trying to aim to become a bigger streamer on Twitch. So I don't quite understand the play here. This is very strange. Very, very weird if true. Though this is a Bloomberg report, we've had quite a few Bloomberg reports that have come out in the past, like I want to say 2 years or so, that have been way off the mark for some reason. But if this is true, this is very big. And I think we're going to have a bit of fallout from this one. So this might be fallout across the board too, because this it doesn't state here. It says it's meant to be for only the top streamers, the top partnered Twitch streamers. But who knows? If that comes as a trickle-down effect and reduces affiliates or smaller partners, this might really reduce where people come into the service, and that might be perhaps what they're trying to do, because Twitch is in this funny state where there's constant massive growth, but there is a degree of there is only a X amount of revenue that they can then associate essentially to distributed individuals. So perhaps they've grown too much in terms of staffing and they need to reduce down how many people are being hired as partners, but they're in direct control of that. So they shouldn't be signing on people if that's the case. So, and again, I would imagine their contracts, they're in control of when they can end them too. So I don't quite understand. So I don't know. If true, this is a very strange piece of news, but I guess we'll see as months goes on if this comes out, or if they review this, and perhaps this leaked deliberately so they could gauge people's responses, and if there is going to be massive fallout from all parties. Hey Mavi, welcome on in. Thank you for the water. I'm actually going to drink a lot in a moment, because we're going to probably jump into news. And holy shit. So we ended up doing an hour of news or so, which actually we did pretty good time on that. I think I was pretty quick on that one. But yeah, that's the last article for today. Some weird stuff, some big stuff, and it was quite a lot of catch up. Like I said, the only reason why this one was relatively sized is because it was 2 weeks worth. I think if it was a single week each, it probably wouldn't have been as much, I think. Genki! Hi Genki. Welcome in, Raiders. How you all doing? You've caught me right as we were about to take a break after finishing up the news. So, give me a shout out, man. The bot should be working. It is working. Fantastic. I like that this clip isn't even Genki singing. How you doing, Genki? Welcome on in. How is YuGiOh anyway? I've not seen him online in forever. Hyrule Warriors is so much fun. I haven't played the new Hyrule Warriors. I don't really care about essentially any of the Breath of the Wild stuff, unfortunately, so that's why I wasn't really drawn into it. But Hyrule Warriors 1 is still might be one of the best Musos. I don't know. I'm torn whether the last One Piece Muso or the latest, or the original Hyrule Warriors is the best Muso, because holy shit, they were very good. I don't know if Age of Calamity is as good as the original Hyrule Warriors, but yeah. He's live right now. Oh, really? I honestly feel like I haven't seen him online in forever. It's pretty great. Yeah, I think anyone who's a fan of those games, I think would probably really enjoy them. But yeah, welcome on in, man. I'm actually going to take a quick break now because we just finished the news. So I'll be back shortly with Tomba. I might try and see if we can finish Tomba today. That might be the aim of today. And then after that, we might jump into either Sonic in the Chow Garden. I also wanted to have a look at something. So I think I may have accidentally cleared over my save in Sonic because of the buttons might have been reversed when I was setting up, which fingers crossed is not the case because I think I was working on a Chow at the time, and that would be very disappointing to not have a Super Chow, but we'll see. Fingers crossed I didn't accidentally override my save. Anyway, we'll probably do, if we do have time at the end of the stream, maybe I'll just mess about in Chow Garden, or maybe we could do the evil path because we haven't done the villains path yet. So, all right, sit tight, y'all. I'll be back in about 5-10 minutes, and we'll get some Tomba going. Be right back.